this event. We thank you for Chris and Staci that they can be here, and we thank you for everyone that's come out and those who are going to be watching online. And we just ask that you would bless this service tonight, Lord, and this class as they share your natural ways of healing the body. And we just praise you and thank you for giving us this information, and pray that we can use these things for your glory. In Jesus' name. Okay, so we have Chris Miles and Staci Dean, and actually Staci used to live in Bonners Ferry several years ago, and she's an RN, and she ended up out in Eden Valley, and that's where she met Chris, and they kind of teamed up in their ministry, been through lifestyle programs together, and learned of these things that we're going to be learning tonight, and God has blessed them with this ministry, so we'll let them explain some of their history. That I know there's going to be some testimonies, and so we'll let them explain.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we let you start, though, can I borrow this?
You can have it.
I don't want to keep it, but if you have one of these, since we're live streaming, go ahead and turn the silent mode on. Switch to the silent. That way we don't get beeps and funny noises and stuff. If you do ask a question,
medical missionary friends, and God teamed us up at Eden Valley. That's in Colorado, and we both had different journeys getting there. Of course, both of us were living in the Northwest. I was living in Spokane area and even Leavenworth, Washington area, and Staci was in Bonners Ferry, and I'll let her share her side. I'll share my side real quick, and then pass it over to her. My quick rundown of how I got here was I was working as an electrician in Leavenworth, and God, over the last couple years leading up to that, God had put on my heart to get into medical missionary work. So I was kind of, secular work. There's good good money. Medical missionary work, not so much, but it's more from the heart. You're working to help people. You're working to help them heal, and of course lead them to the cross. So I was working when COVID. So through some prayer and through counseling and whatnot, I came to the decision I'm going to go. I went to Eden Valley, and I got training. Staci comes out, and I'm gonna pass it off to her, and she can kind of share. She's got more of a testimony about how the natural remedies and her nursing background, how that complete, and the illness she was dealing with, how that completely transformed her life and her focus, and to be doing the conventional nursing into becoming a medical missionary. So with that said, I'm gonna let her kind of give you some more details.
So yeah, I have an incredible testimony because I was a very conventional nurse for 25 plus years. How many of you ever been up to Boundary Community Hospital, Dr. Bakken? Okay, all right. Dr. Leo, you got anybody familiar with Dr. Leo? Okay, so these are the doctors that I worked with. And actually Dr. Leo was the doctor that diagnosed me with cancer. So I've been working up at the hospital for probably about 6 years, and I lived off the grid, up on Katka Road, and you know, had a great life up there, but went through a divorce, lost everything, and then in that process, the Lord just kept, it's like onion layers, you know, he peels things back and peels things back, and that's what he was doing in my life. So what ended up happening is I got really sick, and then I had a really bad back sciatica issue where I couldn't work, so I lost my job. I was living over on Meadow. At the community hospital, and had everything, living off the grid, living the life. And then, yeah, things changed very quickly for me. So I had a marriage of 24 years, that was gone. My dream house was gone. My health was gone. Everything was gone. And then I get diagnosed. Dr. Leo comes in one day, doesn't understand why I'm not getting better with my back. She looks at my proteins, she says, your proteins are high. She said, we need to do more testing. And they did more testing, and it came back that I had multiple myeloma, which is actually bones. And your plasma cells start proliferating and multiplying, and yeah, it's not a good prognosis. But I'm a firm believer. So the Lord had actually prepared me for that diagnosis. I can't explain how, but you know, when you go through the fire after fire after fire, you either know who your Lord is and who your Savior is and who's going to carry you through, or you sink. So for me, it was always, Jesus is my husband, he's going to take care of it. So I'm like, when I got the diagnosis of cancer, I'm like, Lord, you got it. You got it. And you have to really believe. You know, when we talk about faith, you're gonna walk up to that line, right? And when you walk up to that line, you really got to believe that the Lord's going to carry you through that. So I believed that I was going to be healed. But you also have to work in cooperation with the Lord, right? You know, he can't heal you from diabetes if you're eating that cake every day. So it's just the way. Very powerful. And so I was sent to Wildwood, Georgia to start my therapy, and when I was there, yeah, I was very skeptical because I'm a nurse with a very strong nursing background, and I'm like, water? Come on, like really? Water is going to do something to me? I don't think so. But it was that spiritual walk, but it was also seeing, oh man, there were so many people who had like diagnosis of 6 months, you're going to die. You know, the doctor comes in 6 months, you got cancer, you're going to die. And there's time and time again that the Lord brought me people at Wildwood, that, or whatever it was, and they were still there, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, and they were healed. I mean, I'm fully healed. So, you know, when you're around that and you're being treated, you really begin to see the power of what God can do. And it changed my life to the point where I'm like, I can't go back to traditional nursing. How could I do that? And it was God's perfect timing, because God knew about this pandemic. He knew about this pandemic. So, you know, he took me out of nursing, and it just so happened that they had a medical missionary school right there on campus. So I went from being a patient to going to medical missionary school, and I never looked back. So one of my first jobs was at Eden Valley. That's where I met Chris, and the Lord teamed us up, and you know, we're really walking by the faith of Abraham, because we drove out here on really just a, what is it? A wing and a prayer or prayer, and I don't know what that saying is, but that we came out here, not just change and how powerful that is. Now is the time with the pandemic to really start looking at our lifestyle and some of the things that we can do to protect ourselves, so we don't have to go through some of those avenues where we're really to heal us, and we don't even have to go to the hospital. So that's my short, brief testimony.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay, so I guess we could start with the book, and you want to,
Anything else
kind of
we need to touch on lifestyle centers?
well,
We're kind of throughout the country.
yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the names, Eden Valley, Wildwood.
Have any of you heard of these lifestyle centers? Okay,
Okay.
so there's some of you, okay.
Yeah, and then there's some smaller, lesser knowns. I mean, they're all throughout the country, and part of our ministry, which is called Eden Restoration, is helping people get set up in their homes.
Right.
Because it's not just these bigger centers, they do have a purpose and all that, but in order to get, to reach more people, we need places set up in homes and communities all over the country. And so we want to help people do that. And we, so part of it's part training, parts sharing resources, connecting people with resources.
And I was going to say real quick, even though I'm a nurse, everything that we are teaching tonight and everything that you say if you get sick and go to one of these lifestyle centers, you don't need to be a doctor or a nurse to do any of this. I mean, you don't need a degree, and I think that's the beauty of the book and what we teach, that you can just be a housewife, you can be a plumber, you can be an electrician, you can be whatever. But you can actually learn these modalities and these medical things can really change the neighborhood.
Yeah. Personally, if somebody, it's not unusual, you can hear all kinds of chart that. The book, we found out about this book earlier this year, this summer, and we started, so we were both working at Black Hills in South Dakota, right near Mount Rushmore. Beautiful location, 2 million tourists a year, but the town itself of Keystone is only like 300 people. So when we first started we did like 2 classes in Keystone, and then we kind of did one in Tennessee. We've been kind of bouncing around. Wisconsin, did a pick up. That we're getting familiar with that. The book itself, the author, and we have this book available for sale. Everybody, you wouldn't believe it because you'll get a chance to look at this, but when we show this to people who've been in the medical field or in the lifestyle medical missionary work, they look at this and it's like, wow, this is, and then look at this book. And so this part of it is we're, we're a self-supporting ministry. So we do have these available for sale, and we'll get, have all lost thinking and some other. She what's in the book, but we're also going to share some of our own personal knowledge or things we've learned through our own research. So the book is highly valuable. I do recommend it, and we want to get into the first chapter. In the first chapter, it's talking about 1918. What happened in 1918? Spanish flu. And it's one of the big ones, right? You're talking 50 to 100 million.
I think it was, the statistic was half of the state of Alaska.
Adults, yeah.
Adults died. There's 21,000 orphans in the city of New York alone they were orphaned. And I think they said the statistics were between 20 and 30-year-olds were the ones that had the highest death rate. So it really took, you look at COVID right now, right? And the comorbidities, people are really, really sick. They're dying, they're getting sick. But with Spanish flu, it was wiping out young people and children. And it's a high death rate.
So if you believe in, whether you're a believer in natural remedies already, or you come to believe in natural remedies as the kind of the way to go, and we're not excluding all modern medical, and if there's an emergency, if there's an ER situation, that's a great place to go. But oftentimes people are going to the hospital when they don't need to, and even sick. Doctors still have great knowledge, nurses, but when you come to become a believer in natural remedies, this is a thing that I'm going to show you. Some of you already know this. That will be a great tool in your toolbox, because during that time, we have a chart here, and this is in the book. I want to show this far left column, this far left bar or a graph or whatever we refer to that. That is 13 to 40% mortality rate in the general hospitals for Spanish flu. Now we hear the number a lot for today's flu as 1%, somewhere around there. 13 to 40% if you go to the hospital with Spanish flu. Shift over, and you can probably read that military hospital, 6.7%. So right away, if you're in the military, you have this great advantage of surviving Spanish flu. And we can kind of cover some reasons why. I haven't done like an intensive study of everything that was different. Shift over again, and you have sanitariums, 1.3%. Sanitariums, as we mentioned, lifestyle centers. So right off the bat, which way are you going to go? I'm going for the sanitarium. And then the last one, 0%, 100% survival rate. It says one Minnesota dormitory. So Hudson, Minnesota, expensive, low cost, easy to administer, and just at home. One of the things with pharmaceuticals is it's a pill. You take it, pop the pill.
Yeah, and one pill leads to another pill, to another pill, and to another pill, and we know how that works.
When you consider the way that we were designed, how God designed us, and you think about how the way to heal is, you realize why God did what he did. He wants to reconnect us with one another. He wants to have that personal touch when you're touching somebody's shoulder, or massage is important. You know, it's not just like, oh, it feels good. Massage can heal. So God wants us to have that close, that personal intimacy, that personal relationship, personal friendship. And so that is something that's very, very valuable to you. The more you study this stuff, the more you see God's heart and how he created us.
And then the other point is, when you look at the pandemic right now, what does it do? It separates us. So we know Satan is right in the middle, and with the mask and the social distancing, you know, Chris just made a great point. God wants us to be part of that community. He wants us to touch. He wants us to, you know, massage all the stuff that is so healing. And what does Satan do? He wants to take it away from us. So this, you know, this pandemic, we know as a spiritual battle too. So changing the way that we look at each other, the way that, because it's such a divisive pandemic that, you know, instead of people coming together, they're separating. We have to recognize who the enemy is. So.
Yeah, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, he knelt down, washed the feet of his disciples, showed us the perfect example of humility, what it is to be a servant, what it is to serve. And so I want to follow that example. He's the greatest example of that's ever lived. So why not follow that? Immune boosting strategies. Do you have anything there that you wanted to touch on?
No, but the sanitarium, the Minnesota dorm, it's impressive because they followed everything that's in this book, basically. They started with rest, they did hydrotherapy, they did sun, they did water. And so we're gonna go through some of these chapters and start digging a little bit deeper now into what they did and what was successful. But if you just remember, they had a 0% people died. So it's, you know, these remedies really do work.
And I wanted to touch on the military hospitals too, because you saw the dramatic drop in mortality rates. So one thing is, and they show this with the World War I. They talk about World War I in the book, how those who were treated in a tent hospital had a much greater chance of survival. You got the fresh air coming right through. You got the sunlight that's hopefully disinfecting, or it's definitely like the amount of sunlight. It's all dependent on how much sunlight gets in. So two very important, just you take those two things. X, or they don't get the good they don't get the good pass. So if those are just two things you change, the amount of fresh air, also getting into the wilderness and all that. And we're going to look at some amazing things that even some of you who've been in this work probably have not heard before.
So one of the things we go forward here, we'll
Okay.
start on one of the first chapters that is in the book, and you keep going. I want to start on sleep. So how many of you actually go to sleep with your cell phone? Hopefully not too many. Okay, we got a really smart. Okay, that's good. Because when we go to sleep, one of the things that is produced, and it's really important right now for the pandemic, is melatonin. Melatonin actually helps fight inflammation, and it's an immune booster. Now, some people have asked me, you really don't need to take melatonin supplements right now. What you need to do is get some sleep. So when it comes to this pandemic and protecting yourself from COVID, it sounds so simple, but it really is important that you get sleep. Because when you sleep, the melatonin is produced. This is what happens. Another thing that's produced is, and I don't know how to forward it, but it's called cytokines. Does anybody know what a cytokine is? Do you know what a cytokine is?
I don't.
They're part of COVID, the cytokine. One of the things about is a cytokine storm. So cytokines are good. They're part of your immune system, and they actually, when you sleep and you rest, they're produced while you're sleeping. So that's a good thing. But it's a bad thing when it comes to COVID, because when you get sick with this virus, cytokines elicit a inflammatory response, which is good. You know, your immune system is taken up, what it's supposed to be doing. But with this virus, there's too many. So you get an overproduction. And what happens is it's like a hyper, think about like an asthmatic attack. It's just hyper inflammation, which is not good. So the virus overproduces all these cytokines, and then you get a lot of respiratory issues, and that's why people have to be put on vents, because of this hyper-inflammatory response, which is called a cytokine storm. But if you sleep, what's going to happen is you'll make more melatonin, which will build your immune system. You'll make the good proteins, which are the cytokines, and when you sleep, is your immune system memory is made stronger. So these are things that are really overlooked. And when we talk about that dormitory, the first thing they did was they went to sleep. They rested. And one of the first mistakes we make with COVID is we start feeling good, and we get up and we start working and doing things, and they already have statistics that say if you do that, you're going to have a relapse. So rest is really, really important.
Yeah, and I think everything that we share also, or everything you learn, consider again how God created us and why He created us. So we think it's more manly to work, you know, drive ourselves into the ground. But God is saying no. You know, I need you to rest. I need you to get. Think about the amount of energy you have. There's a certain amount of energy, and we're gonna get into like food later too. But when you eat a Thanksgiving dinner, right? People, what's common to eat? Turkey, right? And so, what is claimed to be the problem for you? The reason you get so sleepy? Tryptophan, right? That's what they claim. Now, it's been a while since I've heard this, so I might need to look into it. But what I heard years ago was that the amount of tryptophan in a normal serving of turkey isn't sufficient to make you tired. So there's something else at play. And what are some ideas?
Overeating.
Overeating? Not only overeating, but how about the amount of variety, the type of food, the richness of the food?
The carbs.
So,
Yeah.
so there's...
Dysbiosis.
Yeah.
What's that? So think about the amount of energy you have is limited. You don't have an infinite amount of energy. God does. So when you eat that amount of food, your digestive system is like needing to do a lot of work. So instead of you having energy and your digestive system working, all your energy is drained because it's going to do the digestive work because you eat so much. You've eaten so much rich food and so many varieties. Think of it the same with sickness. You only have so much energy, and when your body is fighting something, sometimes you don't even know it, right? But when your body's fighting something, it needs as much energy as it can get. So sleep is that time when your body is They tell us, oh, keep our hands clean. It can enter through our nasal passage. You can get through our eyes, our mouth. So many ways, it's got the energy. It needs the energy from sleep to tackle, to take on.
How many of you get more than 7? Okay. Ooh. So these are real statistics. It says people who get only 5 to 6 hours nightly of sleep are more likely to get sick than people of 7+. There's people who sleep less than 6 hours nightly are 23% likely to die prematurely. There are some really, really powerful statistics out there. That's how important sleep is. With obesity, high blood pressure, depression, all from lack of sleep. And so, yeah, I know. so we really overlook the power of sleep. And, 23% more likely to die prematurely when you get less than 6 hours. So that's yeah.
Are you talking uninterrupted, like you don't get a...
Yes, you
2 or
need to,
3
yes,
solid.
uninterrupted, a solid block. And actually, the best time to sleep isn't it before like the midnight hour? Is when that's recommended, like going to bed at 9.
10 to 3 is when your healing hormones are made.
Exactly.
10 to 3 is when your healing hormones.
Yep. And so that's really important that you have that window. And so we overlook this because here we're walking around and we've got this COVID, right? And if you're not sleeping, you wonder why people get sick that look like they shouldn't get sick, right? But we don't know what they're doing at home. We don't know if they're not getting enough sleep, if they have stress, if they're eating before they go to bed, if they're eating the wrong foods. We don't know. And so when you have somebody who is looks like they're 53 years old, they look good, and then they get COVID and they get sick, and they end up on a bench.
And die.
You don't know, and they die. You really, the statistics are like, oh, this is. We don't know the lifestyle this guy had. Education, simple things like sleep. Very, very important. Anything else on sleep?
And the most ideal sleep is that solid block of
Yes.
7 hours, 8 hours. But if you're not getting that, you're able to go right back to
Yeah,
sleep.
that's good.
I haven't looked a lot into that, but you're still getting a lot of
Yeah.
the benefits, so don't stress too much about, because then you probably have more trouble getting to sleep if you're going to stress about it, right?
How many of you have problems sleeping at night? Oh, wow. Oh, man. So, yeah, how many of you use, maybe melatonin or, okay.
Doesn't work.
Is there anything else that you use besides melatonin? Do you tried natural?
5-HT.
What is it?
5-HT.
Okay,
The
5-HT.
precursor.
Okay. Has anybody tried
Natural calm.
Okay, yeah, natural calm, that works, yeah, that works. Yeah, prescribed like Ambien or, okay, so that's good. We want to stay away from the pharmaceuticals. But, there are ways, I know sleep is a big thing, but really, not eating before you go to bed, cut it off at 6 o'clock, that's a big thing.
That's again with the energy too.
Yeah,
Energy,
yeah.
your body, you don't want your body
Working.
stuff. Because
Yeah.
in all that restorative there's so much going on that we don't
Yeah.
even know about, right? That they'll study and study and study, and they'll still be learning about everything that's going on during their sleep.
Yeah.
So sleep is so
Yeah.
crucial.
And-
And so whatever you can do to improve your sleep, whether it's, because once that, your body's doing things once the sun goes down. And it's actually starting to prepare for sleep. But we have this artificial light, right? It's okay, we're doing a class tonight, so. But it's hard to get away from, right? It's
Yeah.
not like you're gonna go to sleep at 4.
Cell phones, get rid of the blue light, because the blue light suppresses the melatonin. So a lot of that we know, but it's really, we preach, but we don't practice it, right? So
It's easy
Yeah.
for us to speak it, and then we violate some of the
Yeah.
stuff. Not like all the time, but yeah. And then, well, with the blue light, that's great in the morning. They have blue lights for people who are experiencing depression. Some of them buy a blue light in the morning,
Yeah.
especially if you're living up here where you don't get the sun until, I don't know what time it is coming up, but they'll sit under the blue light and they'll be getting the effects, the positive effects, and from the blue light first thing in the morning, and that's helping their mood, and there's helping them to get going.
Okay, so any questions on sleep?
Do naps help if you don't sleep?
That's I
that
always say listen
beneficial,
to
I
your
should say?
body.
Huh?
Your body tells you. And I know a lot of the experts say don't nap and try to struggle, but I don't know, I'm a big proponent of if you take a power nap. I know when I take a power nap, but a limit, because if you sleep too long, you're gonna be groggy, and for 10-15 minutes, if you really need it, yeah, why not?
And
Yep.
deep breathing,
Oh,
Yes.
deep breathing.
Yeah, we'll talk about deep
And
breathing.
Bible
Yeah.
CDs,
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
bed with Bible CDs and deep
Yes.
breathing and gratitude
Yes.
is the only
Yeah.
thing that works for me.
Yeah, amen.
That's
That works. That
some of the
works.
best advice for
Yeah,
good night's sleep. Thank you.
yeah. So
Any fever?
one of the chapters that is in the book is chapter 3. It talks about running a fever, and I run into the founder community wherever I work. When anybody got a fever 101, that was it. Tylenol, 650 milligrams or 1 gram of Tylenol, and we were always trying to knock that fever down. And that's the wrong. That's the wrong way. The heat is good for the body. That's why we have all these modalities like the hot and cold showers, and we have fever bath. heat is actually good, and fever is up to 104. Is all it's doing is ramping up your immune system. It's producing more antibodies. The production of I think it's called interferon, which actually is antiviral and anti-cancer. That's produced. There's all these wonderful things that happen when we're running a fever. So when I was at Wildwood, one of the things for my treatment of my cancer was they stuck me in tub water that was between 112 and 113 degrees, and they wanted to elicit a fever of 104. And why 104? Because hyperthermia temperature again, to that system. And it's medicated. And I think there's, put the slides forward a little bit. That's the white blood cells, and ramps up the antibody production. And there's interferon, which is anti-cancer and antiviral. And one more, and oh yeah, and it increases your metabolic rate, so it causes your cells to rev up. It increases the cell metabolism, which is really good for your body. But there are all these people, and I wanted to talk about the cold, the medications that people take, because they're always trying to knock the cold down. These are probably the worst things that you can take for cold, the Mucinex and the Tylenol liquids, cold and fever, because it masks the symptoms. That's the first thing. And when people have COVID or when they're sick with these viruses, they take this cold and flu medication, and they feel better, and they're still carriers. They're still spreading the virus, and they don't even know it because they've knocked it down. And the more they knock it down with these medications, the more they're actually knocking down their immune system, and they're not even realizing it. So it's very difficult for people to recover from COVID when they're taking these cold and fever medications, and they're more likely to spread that virus. Go forward one more too. And this is all in the book. It goes. It really goes into the fever. And the other thing, the cytokine storm. Remember, I was just talking about the cytokine storm and how COVID elicits action. I should say, you need to drink water, open the window.
It's not like the whatever's invading the body. It's not to try to take care of this problem, and so it isn't doing the fever.
How many of you have medicated like a fever? Have you?
Yeah.
You're so like it's okay. But these are. And I'm medicating people at 101, and I'm like, yeah, take more, and I'm calling the doctor like, oh, it's 102, what do we do? And I'm freaking out because they're 102 and they're 103, and I'm like, I need more Tylenol. And the doctor's like, okay, well, we'll give a gram. So this is what I used to do at the hospital. And now I'm like, let's run a fever. So it's good. So now you know.
And just so you know that in the book, if you do happen to get the book or whatever we're teaching too, it's in the back.
Mm-hmm.
It's tiny print, so you might need a magnifying glass, but it is back there. If you are that want to search it out that much, you can get further information on it. What else about running the fever? Did you have?
Well, and the other thing is, I just mentioned the fever baths. the goal is to keep your core temperature at its best for like optimal health. So that core temperature, you don't want it too cold, you don't want it too hot. But there are ways to actually raise your body temperature that will engage your immune system, like without doing a fever bath. And you guys remember those old-fashioned water bottles that are real heavy rubber? You know, they're that goofy color. They actually work. They actually do work. So you can use that sauna or steam bath, heat wrap, pack or pad. There are like what I used to do actually, even at the hospital, I would take a towel and I'd dip it in some hot water and I'd wring it out and I'd stick it in the microwave and I'd put it here on my chest. We do that for COVID. There's fomentations, we can get into that later.
That was something that was in the Minnesota Dormant Percent Survival Rate. That was one of the treatments they were doing, was the hot pads on the throat and chest.
Neck, yep, on the neck and on the chest. And the throat, and just plain exercise.
So the two things that are to take away from this is heat. Not only kills the bad stuff, the bad whatever it is, bacteria or virus, but it's also boosting your immune system. So it's doing two things just with that heat. Yes.
Isn't there a temperature that can actually be too high? What if a temperature
Yes.
goes up to
Yes.
105, 106?
Yes.
Would you
Yes.
treat them at that point?
Yeah, and then,
It's very.
Yeah.
yeah. So when they get up higher now we don't necessarily have to treat with Tylenol.
Aspirin.
So there are natural ways. There are natural ways to bring down the temperature. A tepid bath.
Wet sheet.
Wet sheet wrap, yeah, and that's a little bit
Vinegar
more like the
socks.
medical missionaries with the wet sheet wrap, and but just a tepid bath can do that. You know, crack the window, tepid bath. So there and a lot of that is in here too.
Yeah,
in
they
the
have
book.
a chart.
Socks.
Vinegar
Vinegar
socks.
socks?
That I haven't heard of.
You soak your socks in vinegar.
Yeah.
Put plastic fever.
Oh,
But you gotta sleep.
Right. I like that.
Any kind of vinegar.
There's a chart with a very high fever,
Half and half.
5.8.
Water, vinegar,
Okay.
half and half.
Half and half. In the chart in the book, it says 105.8
Mm-hmm.
or higher. You want to call the ambulance, go to the emergency room. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
They're not against the hospitals either.
Yeah, there is that point. But yeah, vinegar, that's great. A tepid bath, drink lots of fluids and rest. But they have 105.8 is when you would go in.
Okay, we've got that covered.
Mhm.
104. So in the fever bath, Eden Valley, we had to experience the fever bath, right? If we're going to administer it to somebody, we had to have the experience ourselves. So we did have a fever bath where it's difficult actually to get many people's temperature up above 102.
Yeah,
They just, for whatever reason,
you get
physiological.
stuck. Yeah.
But for me, they're able to get my temperature 104 or somewhere around there. So it's not the most fun thing in the world, but it does some wonderful things for the immune system. Cancer treatment.
Yeah.
Done.
That's it really was spiritual, because I couldn't do it without him. And you know, when you're sitting in a bathtub of 114-degree water, and they can't put enough ice in your head. They just can't. They can't. And but yeah, and I've given a lot of fever baths, and very powerful what I've seen. Wow, like I could just tell, like the healing when people were done, but just the healing that was taking place. So they're very powerful, and they work. They
There's
work.
your hot water bottle. You can't see
Yeah,
the whole thing,
yeah,
but.
there it is.
How long do you sit in that bath with that?
20 minutes.
Oh.
How long?
No, how long? I was just
Oh.
wondering how long you sit in that bath with your.
Yeah, well,
temperature
what they
reading.
do is, they wait until you get up to 104, that's the goal.
Mhm.
And, 10 minutes, they take your temperature every 5 minutes.
Mhm.
So they take your temperature and they check your pulse ox, which is your oxygen level to make sure, because it's very taxing on the heart, and that's why, and the brain, so that's why they put the cold on your head. But once you reach 104, that's the goal, then you have to maintain that for 20 minutes. Now that's the regime that they did at Eden Valley. Now other medical missionaries have done it differently, but I've researched it myself as a nurse, and hyperthermia at 104 degree for a sustained period of 20 minutes will kill cancer cells. And that's been in, those are researched articles. So what they do is actually
Your
powerful
question
but good.
back.
Is that 104 oral or rectal?
Oral,
Okay,
yeah,
because that would be 105 core
yeah,
temperature.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're pretty hot.
Well,
It's pretty hot when you're and the sure head.
Yeah. Yeah, don't just wing it on yourself.
Yeah. And you
Do my
can
own fever
do
bath.
the fever baths at home, and actually, but there's tricks to keeping that temperature in the bathtub hot. You can put a shower curtain over the water to keep the temperature of the water up, and so there are ways you can actually do this at home and get the same type of therapy without going into a sanitarium.
Okay.
Yep.
This
So,
says raise the next
keep-
one
go
is
forward.
nose.
Oh, now we're
so
talking about the nose, yeah. Yeah.
We have the hydrotherapy, we mentioned that, and if nothing else, we definitely recommend the contrast shower.
Right.
Anybody need to know, is that unfamiliar to anybody?
I can't pin anybody down as to how to do, is it
Oh.
5 and 1, and how do you,
Oh, okay.
what's the rhythm? I do it, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm doing.
Yeah, you get it wrong as long as you're doing hot, 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 and then you do some cold.
Yes.
So don't worry about
Cold,
that.
cold, or
But
how
yeah, you
long.
want it.
And done cold.
Yeah, at least 3 to. They always say 3 to 5 minutes. I don't like when I do my shower. I don't time it. I'm just in there, and I'm like, I don't have my timer on. I'm like, if it's 3
No.
minutes, feels like 3
Yeah.
minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, okay. Hot, hot, hot. And then what I do is I turn it quickly to as cold as I can stand it.
For a
And
minute?
30 seconds to 60
Yeah.
seconds if you
Yeah.
can.
But how many times do you?
Well,
Oh,
that-
at least
so-
3.
Yeah.
At least 3?
At
You'll
least.
hear-
My
that's
hot
the
water
minutes.
wouldn't last that long, is the thing, so I just do it as much as
So-
I can.
Yeah.
As a
So-
norm, not when I'm sick, just as a norm.
And that's
If
good.
nothing
That's
else,
smart.
end on a cold.
Yes.
You know, if you
Yes.
take a normal shower, end on cold.
Mhm.
There's a video that's been around for a number of years. It talks about Navy SEAL tells why you always want to you're getting fit one but yeah, getting on cold is important. 3 cycles is often recommended.
Yep. Or if you
And
can.
even with the lifestyle centers, they have the special showers, and the only main thing different is they have a bunch of nozzles, so there's more water, and they can control it with 2 handles, or they can control the temperature with this one, and so they have that advantage, of course. But a lot of times, yeah, lifestyle centers doing 3 cycles, really hot, and then really cold.
Yeah, we speak of hot, we have these clubs that jump in ice
Yeah.
water in the
Yeah.
creeks.
That's good.
And stay, that is.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that,
Yeah,
okay.
there's a
Yeah, that's good.
in fact in chapter 4
Yeah.
on the soak steam detox, it talks about the fins.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Finnish have that's like
Polar
you know,
plunges.
It's like everybody in America has something, but every Finn has a sauna.
Yeah.
That's so they have a lot of experience and knowledge and
Yes, the hydrotherapy.
statistics on doing the saunas and the hot and cold. So 3 minutes, 30 seconds is often, if you want to do 3 cycles,
Yeah.
3 minutes hot, 30 seconds cold. 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds cold. So
Yeah, and maybe while we're talking about it, can I have a volunteer? I'm gonna just show them the Russian steam real quick.
all right, volunteer.
Because I just need somebody to wrap up. So this is what you can do at home.
I nominate you.
And if you,
I'm just stretching.
steam bath going, but you can actually be creative too. Like I've used a hot pan of water, and I've used that to create the steam, because what you're doing is you're making a tent. You're making a steam tent, and you just need a chair. And what I do is you're gonna need some equipment. You're gonna need a basin, and this is gonna be filled with warm water. And what that does is going to get the temperature up of the person who you're going to do the Russian steam bath. So he's going to put his feet in there, and then have either a pot of hot water or a kettle that is steaming, and that goes underneath the chair in the back. So you're going to need an open chair. But what you do is you're going
Something to produce that steam.
yeah.
Steam's
So
gonna
we're
come
just
up.
creating a steam tent.
We want to trap it all in so it's going driving into the body.
So you're going to take a sheet. That's going to be your first layer. And the key is creating that tent. And you're going to get right up to the neck there. And then you're going to take a second layer. You can do a wool blanket, is really great, but if you don't, like this one is just a cotton, you're going to wrap that. And plastic. So you can. I was at Wildwood getting my training. They had a special tent thing that was made out of plastic with a hole in it. It was awesome. And maybe if you look online, you can find that. But I haven't been able to. But you can just take. We live in Idaho, so everybody knows where to get this stuff, right? You can go to the. We know where to go. You wrap that up, and then what you're going to do is you
Pin it or something.
Yep, pin it or tape it. And then back here is where you're going to put that steam kettle, and so it's going to build up that steam here for at least 20 minutes. That's what's recommended. And this is one of the COVID treatments that you can do at home. And when I went over to like Eden Valley and Wildwood, they had Russian steam treatment for cancer, for everything.
They got a molded plastic
Yeah.
device you sit in, and it
Mm-hmm.
covers all the way up to your neck.
Yeah.
And so it's all ready to go. It's much easier to.
Yeah, but you have to pay like $5,000 to go there and get it. So this is really cheap, and then also the thing that you want to do when this patient or person and you're treating them, make sure you're giving them some warm liquids. We usually do a little tea or warm lemon water, and then when they start sweating, then you're going to take a cool compress and you're going to keep their head cool. It's really important that their head is always cool, and they will start sweating. I mean, they're gonna sweat.
Yeah, a lot of these treatments with where you're heating up the body, yeah, you're gonna want that cold, ice cold, like in a bucket of ice water, wring it out, and then have another one
Yes.
ready so you can
Yes.
swap them out, because it's obviously gonna be warm. It's gonna hit warm.
One more, put the person there here. So it may be there. Yeah. At the end, dumps cold water on their feet. That kind of finishes it up. So you're going to have cold water, and you back the blood and pour it on, and then you're going to start breaking this down. And then it's really 20 minutes of sitting there and it's really intense. And it's the
This color, the sheet or the water.
oh yeah.
You'll see.
Person is a cigarette smoker. It's amazing what comes out of them when they do these steams. And then 30 minutes at least for them to rest. You want them on bed rest because otherwise it's I mean, why do it? You really want to. The other thing is a foot bath. So you can take you do the in a towel, and you put the person's feet in about 104-degree water. You have to have a thermometer for this, and put it in there, and then but don't put a lot in there. And then what you're going to do is start adding hotter water till you get up to like that fever bath temperature. If you can get it up to 110, 112, keep them wrapped, keep their feet in the foot bath, and do that again for 20 minutes. And foot soaks they're not just immune boosting, but anybody have problems like with migraines?
I think they can help for sleeping too.
Oh, they're good for sleep. One of the key things for migraines. I've dealt with a lot of patients with migraines, and I was really skeptic. I was a real skeptic because I'm like, oh, you need Botox injections, and I'm thinking like a nurse. You need Botox. You need the pill, the sublingual pill. And when I went to, I think it was Wildwood, I saw the first foot soak, and somebody had a raging migraine, and they just did a foot soak and took 20 minutes, and they wrapped them up, and the migraine was gone. I'm like, this is crazy.
So
So I was a firm believer.
what if I'm diabetic?
Yeah, there are counterindications. So circulation, any type of impaired circulation, if you've got coronary artery disease, diabetes, neuropathy. Neuropathy is when you don't have a lot of good circulation. So, and I believe on here there should be diabetes, atherosclerosis, hypertension, and emaciation. So.
Yeah, and all these thing that we're for example, if you want to use activated charcoal, you want to use it internally, that's great. But if you're taking medications, you want to be careful when you take that charcoal, because it will absorb your medications. And then, so
Have any of you tried the internal taking charcoal at all? Okay. Yeah, charcoal is wonderful.
should be doing it like just as a regular maintenance thing, like
Yeah.
every couple weeks probably,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
So in your
Maybe
baths
more.
or your foot soaks, a lot of people always say like Epsom salts or add things in there.
Yes.
But would you do that when you're doing this kind of thing?
For a foot soak?
Or just your bath, you know, you could put Epsom
Oh, yeah.
salts or
Oh, yeah.
a lot of other like,
Yes,
you know.
magnesium is good. And also, like when I remember I was treating a lady who had a skin cancer condition. And so we would do the fever baths, and we'd add, I think it was a combination of frankincense and I think maybe it was jasmine. But it was a powerful combination for skin cancer. And so, and Eden Valley had done this very successful with another woman who had skin cancer, and added these essential oils. So eucalyptus is really powerful. When you have a lot of symptoms of flu symptoms and upper respiratory issues, we do what's called an inhalation therapy, and this is guys remember old days. So, well, that's hydrotherapy, but an easy way. You add a couple of eucalyptus drops in there, and you just cover your head. You make a hood. Or peppermint is really good. It just opens everything up. So, you know, I'm not an essential oil expert, but those are just real simple things. They're cheap, and they really work, and they're very.
Sea salt.
Sea salt, okay, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. That's great. Yeah. A lot of, you know, we're going to be moving on to the nose, but the nose with COVID, you know, everything starts in the nose, and that's where a lot of our immunity is. But people are carrying around this virus, it's in the nose. And so inhalation therapy has become very important during the pandemic right now. And we were talking with Dr. Mead, he's over in Coeur d'Alene, and he's been successfully treating people with COVID. And one of the things that he recommends is a nebulizer, or just a spray that has colloidal silver in it for me. And that's, you know, colloidal silver is antibacterial, antifungal, anti-infect, it's everything, anti, right? It kills everything. And so he successfully has been doing neb treatments in the nasal spray, and he's had great success with his clients. So, you know, just remember this, the nose here, we can treat that and protect.
The book talks about internal hydrotherapy, and that's,
Yeah.
they have some really good points that I wasn't familiar with, like drinking warm water or hot water, and how that can help, you know, remove phlegm, or dissolve phlegm and help it come out of the respiratory tract. Enhance blood circulation by breaking down deposits in the blood. So you drink cold water, you're actually, I never thought about this, but you can harden the oil present in foods. A bit of drinking hot water. We start sort of hot water with a lemon, like a whole lemon. I used to think that you know, a little lemon edge was like a benefit, but then no, that's is on hill is forest. That's especially the pines and evergreens, and you're getting the benefit, not only the fresh air, but you're getting the benefits of some of the stuff that the plant is producing. Oxygen, negative ions are great. Things like AC, I know we're not dealing with AC right now this time of year, but AC is producing positive ions, and that's the unhealthy ions, right? It's from the waterfall, from the ocean breakup where it hits the shore. Rain, yeah.
The rain.
I think even from the shower, from taking a shower, you can benefit from that. So there's great things on the breathing.
And tell them about nitric, how many of you have heard of nitric oxide? Okay, yeah, it's okay, not all of you, but it's, nitric oxide is probably one of the most, they call it like the mother antioxidant. It's very, very powerful, and it's something that we need to become familiar with, especially with this pandemic, because a lot of our body produces it naturally, and it's a vasodilator, which means it opens up the blood vessels. So it's great for people with high blood pressure, but that also increases the circulation of the blood. And nitric oxide is so powerful that, well, and actually by the time you're 70, I think we lose what, 70% of the nitric oxide? But this is something that our body needs to mean, it's a great build the immune system, whatnot.
Proper breathing is, does everybody know, is it through the mouth or nose? Nose. Good. So it's doing way more than you realize the difference between the mouth and the nose. Preparing it to go into the lungs. If you're breathing through the mouth a lot, you're actually creating the environment for bacteria to grow. And one thing about nasal breathing is it has a lot to do with nitric oxide production.
Yes.
And in fact, they do studies. There's different types of breathing techniques, and I stay clear of some the new age yoga stuff.
Yoga.
But there are breathing exercises that are good for getting more oxygen into your body. Because if you're just breathing regular, you're not considering how you're breathing, and even things that stress you out or things that cause you fear, your breathing is going to change the benefit of that oxygen that is in the air. There's 20.4, 20.7% oxygen in the air. And one of the incredible things is we can do CPR, right? We can breathe life or help somebody that needs resuscitation. So when we exhale, I think we use 5% of the oxygen available in the air. When we exhale, if we've used 5, then there's 16%. I know it's tricky with percentages, but there's still enough oxygen in your exhale to get oxygen into the person you're resuscitating for their body. So something that another way we were just
On the nose, what do you think of neti pots?
Oh yeah, neti pots. Well, those have been around for a long time. Yeah, that'd be
neti
good.
pots
Yeah.
where you pour the water
Yeah.
into your nostril.
Mhm,
And
yeah, and put some silver, colloidal silver in there. And even like iodine is really powerful too. One of the protocols for COVID, there's a lot of different protocols, but one of the protocols I have with my immunity kits is vitamin D3, liposomal vitamin C, and there's zinc, and there's NAC, which is a blend that comes kind of recommended with how to protect yourself and to take it before and during. But what used to be on that protocol was iodine. And Dr. Mark Mead has a great testimony. Was it his son who had, he was sick? And so he tried everything, all these different modalities, right? Everything, and nothing was working. So then he took good old-fashioned iodine, and he put it on a swab, and he put it on the back of his throat. The kid's gagging, and put the iodine back of the throat, and I think within a week, was it like 50% better? And then he did it again.
Results immediately the next
Yeah,
day.
okay.
I don't remember
But it was within a week or two. Let's just put it this way. He was just that one did it again. So it was kind of like an experiment. And he shared it with.
Iodine.
With-
Copper.
Okay.
But you can be spray like extract.
Yeah.
And I had those too, and
Yep.
I switched just for yourself, have one for each person.
Mm-hmm.
I switched the nasal spray cap on the iodine, I spray that,
Yes.
so I spray both.
Yeah. Perfect.
And you need to do that at least 4 hours before you're exposed. So you need to do it more often,
Yeah.
and you can do it because it's diluted.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is everything. It's the nose right now is where our protection is, and that's why we're looking at intranasal sprays now.
Someone
being
did
so
that, they were
effective.
exposed to who had
Mhm.
COVID, and everybody in the family, someone said, oh, we gotta get tested.
Yeah.
So everybody did the iodine,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody had a positive test.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, it's that powerful. Yes.
Could you just do the Lugol's liquid iodine transdermally and have that in your bloodstream?
Oh, that's interesting. Iodine is first
on
line of
contact.
defense is the nose. So we're protecting what we're breathing because they're fine particles, obviously. But yeah, ingesting it is good too. I know Mark Mead had recommended, he makes his own, he had a recipe. You can make your own iodine. And you can make your own silver colloidal too. There's recipes out there that you can do. But yeah, why not? I
I'd
mean,
like to
you can take a drop or drink it. I
Thank you,
mean,
Matt.
you're not
is about certain breathing that increases your nitric oxide levels.
yeah.
And it says, they claim, they've studied, that when you're humming, you're actually producing a lot more nitric oxide.
Right.
And nitric oxide is a big thing in the,
Yeah.
like we mentioned with the COVID and immune system and everything else.
Yeah.
So, you know, they had a certain breathing exercise you can find online, or breathing exercises for nitric oxide production.
Yeah, and then going with the glutathione too, and I'm gonna, maybe what I'll do is I'll demo this real quick. Onions, garlics, chives, leeks are all part of the alum family, and that's where you find the highest levels of glutathione, including beans, but there's G-bombs, right? Greens, beans, mushrooms, berries, all these are high in the glutathione. This is what we should be eating. So our diet has a profound effect on fighting the virus. And you know, you're eating a healthy dose of beans, you're eating with a lot of onions, you're increasing your glutathione. So, you know, it's great that you can take supplements, and it does help when you're in an exacerbation of the COVID, but starting out with these foods, you just need to incorporate that.
And that's exactly because they said you don't just take vitamin D,
Exactly.
a high dose of vitamin D.
Right.
This doesn't do anything, but if
That's
you have
right.
been taking it, or if you have
Yes.
been eating well,
Yes,
then
exactly.
your body can
ginger. And so, and I'll just like a slice of ginger. You can never go wrong with adding, but it's just a super powerful antioxidant drink, and it just helps build your immune system. At home. Oh wow. Okay. How many of you use them? Okay. Well, you know, I gotta ask because you know you can have it in your home and you're gonna use it. But I'm gonna turn this on and I'm just gonna make a small batch, and then maybe while I'm doing this, Chris, you wanna? Yeah. If I. I think she's gonna find a stir there. And you know, you're doing a small batch, so please try to make it organic. And I did peel for this demo. I peel organic. You can leave the peel on, but the only thing about leaving the peel on, because peels are good for you, is that it just it changes the flavor. So I wanted to make sure to take the peel off so you didn't, because it can be really bitter with the peel. And it takes a half an onion, and then it takes 1 grapefruit.
You don't need to go back.
Oh, that'll work. And then 3 cloves of garlic. And garlic, it's really important to buy organic garlic, because garlic is a bulb, it's a root vegetable. And so if it's not organic, what happens?
Too easy to grow your own garlic.
Yeah, it's very easy to grow your own garlic, and so don't buy. You know, try to grow your own. If you know somebody who has garlic, get it from them, because any root vegetable like salad, your potatoes, we all know that it becomes a sponge. So go. Organic apples, but if you can't afford organic apples, you just peel it, you know, make do.
No,
But,
apples and potatoes you can't.
yeah, well, yeah, but you can at least peel, you know, I know,
inside,
but you
yeah.
know, sometimes
Yeah.
people have to, unfortunately, and I wish we could all afford or grow our own food. I'm a big proponent of growing your own food.
So everybody partaking?
Yes.
Anybody not? Okay.
We might as well all have bad breath.
Yeah. And then another recipe here also that is really powerful, hydrochloroquine. So we know that hydrochloroquine is really good with fighting the virus, but you don't need the medication. You can actually, there's a recipe that I have, and anybody's interested in, I have it on my phone, but my girlfriend told me about this. What you do is you take a peel of organic grapes, one organic grapefruit,
Yes.
and 1 organic lemon, and then you wash it and you dry it, and then you chop it up. You just chop, and then you put it in a pan with 2 cups of distilled water, and then you keep it on low for 3 hours, and then you're simmering it, and then you strain it, you put it in the refrigerator, and that actually makes hydrochloroquine. It works the same. Have you heard of that?
I did it.
Okay, oh, and you've done it?
They
Okay.
told me 3 grapefruit, 3 lemon peels.
Okay, there you go.
Boil it for 2 hours and then do that.
About the same
And
recipe,
I
yeah.
took it all.
Yeah, perfect.
I already had the COVID though, but I took it
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah, yeah. What did you do to treat your cold?
We got the infusion.
Right up front.
And what it is, I don't know. It's not the
like that. So, you know, that's where all of this stuff comes. It's really important that you can make your own hydrochloroquine. You can make Russian penicillin. Yes, you can do a Russian steam. Yes.
Do you drink the juice, the lemon and the grapefruit with the peelings in it, or you take the peelings out?
You peel
Oh,
your
you
grapefruit,
strain
peel your
it,
lemon.
you strain it, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
you
oh,
strain it, you keep it in the refrigerator.
How much and how often?
Well, that's a good question. I think you can't overdo it. So I think as long as you're sick, you know, I would say, and this is just my nursing background, if you're sick, you probably want to do it at least 3 to 4 times a day.
This much?
So
This
that's,
is a
yeah.
dose?
So at least, you know, you do every 4 hours is usually what would be recommended
Mine
when
was
you're actively sick. And then if you're not actively sick, you know, I'd say twice a day doing a shot or every morning.
The one I got, I think it said 2 tablespoons every so often, but
Yeah.
I'd have to look at my phone, which I left in the car.
And I actually have another recipe that, let's see, where is it? Antibiotics, an organic antibiotic where you can drink it and then you put it into pill form and you take it. So there's so many different recipes out there. Yeah. I would say, with something like that, make sure it's sealed in a mason jar, and I would think, yeah, 3-4 days, and just keep, you make small batches, and just keep it fresh, yeah.
What's an infusion that you're talking about?
Oh, an IV infusion. So
I
that's
just
what they're
know-
doing at Dr. Guyman's now.
So like a Myers cocktail, is that what you're talking about?
I don't know what
No.
it is, I've got the papers on it, but
It's-
Dr. Guyman does that?
You
Yeah.
only get 16 of them, they're only allowing that many per day begging. for
It's
more.
like it's not an antibiotic, it's, they're putting, and it's on the tip of my tongue,
It's antibiotic.
but it is, they're treating, COVID very effectively with this infusion.
It's
So, and if
antibiotic.
Dr. Guyman's doing, that's amazing.
I
It's
started
like
feeling good
receiving,
right away.
yeah, it's like receiving ivermectin or something, you know, and right away they shut that down, but, yeah, hopefully he'll be able to continue to do that,
He's
because I,
fighting for it.
yeah, I foresee.
You have to be 65 or older,
Okay,
even though I'm younger than him.
yeah. What are you, like 40? Good, you're good. So, I know it's getting kind of late, we're gonna probably wrap it up. Any questions or anything? Because, you know, this is the thing with this book, we could talk all night.
Well, you're doing it tomorrow night.
How much are the books?
Yeah, the books are $20 for one or two for, what, $35? And we do have immunity kits, over there, which has a liposome. Yeah,
Freeze it.
yes.
And just keep,
Nice.
a smaller amount thawed out. maybe.
Yeah, that's a great idea. There's so much, you know, what we wanna talk about too, hopefully tomorrow, is, how many of you guys know about the graphene oxide? Yeah, there's a lot of education that need, you know, we're really hitting it hard with the natural stuff, but I think also, you know, we didn't talk, anything about the vaccine, and we don't wanna, there's things that are being put in our body that's why our immune system really needs to be, you know, strong, and we have to be aware of some of these things that are going on, because, you know, with or without the vaccine, having our immune system at its fullest capacity is really, really important right now, really important. God gave us this beautiful immune system. I always say I have God's immunity. That's the best immunity that we could have, right? So we need to take care of it.
You know, I could be way off, but when we caught the COVID, we were kind of slacking on walking and our
Just
water.
little stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I really
Yes.
feel we haven't up as efficiently as we should
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's very important, walking out in the pines.
You don't hospital can't. This and he, for 10 years, he had been suffering pictures of it, and it was
It was
pretty
bad.
nasty.
I
It
was a
was
wound
bad.
care nurse, and it was bad.
Treated it,
Mm-hmm.
or attempted to treat it.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just speaking of the conventional medicine. So for a decade, and he was close to having his leg amputated.
Mhm.
He's like, I'm ready. When he found out we were medical missionaries, he's like, him and his wife were like, they're like, wow, we feel like God brought you here. And so he told us about what's going on, and we activated charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
We told him about the charcoal poultices, and it wasn't just telling him about it. We brought him charcoal poultices and said, apply these every night, and you'll to here in natural remedies. You know, they weren't opposed to that, so they gave it a shot. They're like, yeah, why not? What's this gonna hurt? And so he would remove it in the morning, apply a new one. We hadn't heard from him for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, 3 weeks later, the wife of Matt, she gets
Mhm.
text Staci. He's like, oh, I couldn't find your
Your
was
phone
blowing
number.
so she's texting, like,
Mhm.
you won't believe it. Praise the Lord. His wound is healed. His leg was healed.
After a decade.
Yeah.
A decade.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
So there's people in the community. There's people out here. That needs.
Yeah.
And when they get healed, you help them heal. Like, hey, give us $10 for this. And so in return, like, I contribute to your ministry, and it's like, sure. We decided that we weren't gonna, turn down money because it's not to enrich us, but to further the after 10 years. So, and this was right down the road, 10 minutes from Black Hills, the lifestyle center. So these lifestyle centers are really missing a boat where people could be getting treated, and I don't want to speak ill of them, but they don't focus a lot on the community. They get people from Seattle and San Francisco and Philadelphia. I'm just thinking of people that have been there, and I'm thinking of the places they were coming from, and yeah, they were coming from a lot, most of them. So God put our focus on the community. If they want to focus on that, that's fine, but somebody needs to focus on community. And so that's where we, like, hey, let's, you know, that was like sealed the deal. Here's this guy, 10 years, could have been healed 10 years ago, and finally he found relief from
We
that.
have the opening wedge right in our
Yeah.
hands. So don't be afraid to use it. You don't need to have a PhD or be a nurse.
Yeah.
You can just use a simple book like that to reach people. It's very, very easy. Very easy.
So,
And before we close, my friend Monica has a little announcement if you guys are interested in even learning more.
Yes, exactly, thank you. And so just taking this and I've been here, unable to fight these COVID. It's not just COVID, and so we're going to have a seminar on December 5th. So take a flyer, December 5th in Sandpoint. And it's going to be very similar this type of setup where we have the practical applications. I really love the steam bath that she did, the hot foot bath. You know, just learning practical applications, and we will do the fomentations as well. So pass that around for people to get more training.
All right, thank you.
yeah, well, tomorrow will be a little different. We'll have the stuff for sale for one thing. So if you want to purchase, tonight would be the best night to do that.
Should we close
these
this?
things for?
Just one second, please.
Should we close it first?
So I want to thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Remember what Christ says, that unless we become like one of these, we'll not enter in. Some of you know the trouble I have breathing and other things. And this is what we've been preaching in this store since day one. I told him God has a health plan. He will see us through. I did not know what that was. But God has seen us through this. And when the employees, praise God, one at a time, have gotten it outside of work, we've been able to treat many of them with these remedies, and they work.
Yes.
And so there's another resource down in Coeur d'Alene called Life. And they do a lot of these. They do the infusions.
Yes.
And when I had problems, I went down there, and they put me 24. Estimate they've got the books for sale here. If someone can't afford a book, I want you to have the books before you go home, okay? One per family. If you can't afford it, the thrift store will pay for you a book. I want you to have one. This is critical. This works. As many of my employees can testify, you've heard this before. This isn't something new. This works. I believe in it. And we want to make sure that you leave with one book, okay?
Thank you. Awesome. All right, you want to close with a prayer, Chris?
Yeah, let's close. Let's bow our hearts, bow our heads. Oh, Heavenly Father, Lord, we are so grateful to you for all you do. Every moment of every day of our lives, you have been pouring out your blessings upon us. Even when we didn't realize it, and we still don't realize every blessing that is coming down from heaven. And so we just thank you, Lord. We thank you for the health that we do have. We ask for forgiveness for the lack of health that we may have brought upon ourselves, or maybe it was out of our control. But Lord, you have given us wisdom. You have shown us wisdom and knowledge. You have shown us how we were created wonderfully and fearfully made, and that we want to live in harmony with you